our last speaker, and thank you very much for being so concise in all your statements, Mabel Bianco.
I hope to be, don't know if I'm going to be concise. I'm Mabel Bianco from Argentina. I'm president of Fundación para Estudio e Investigación de la Mujer, and I'm talking on behalf of the Women Mayor Group. Well, I thank the opportunity to speak in this session. We all recognize and agree about the importance of the HLPF in ensuring that the state's commitments to what will become the post-2015 development agenda will become on-the-ground realities. Something less knowledge is that not all of us understand the same about the roles of the HLPF, its format, and the practical outlets in which civil society could engage within it in the future, including the agenda setting process. Throughout the previous days, states, CSO, mayor groups, the private sector, scientific community celebrated the UN Resolution 67/290 and the Rio +20 practices, which recognized and recommended a broad participation of all stakeholders, as well as the efforts to ensure, promote, facilitate, and increase this participation, especially to become more inclusive and mirror of the diversity of civil society concerns worldwide. We celebrate the advances in defining this participation in the process of the post-2015 agenda, as the creation of the major groups recognizing the need to structure and create channels to allow each group to organize and have their own rules and modalities. Transforming the world towards sustainable development, we need a broad mobilization of resources, broad participation, a broad consensus over principles and guiding values. The international communities needs to know what's going on at local, national, regional level in order to not leave anyone behind and ensure ownership of the major transformation envisioned by SDGs. As MAB governments are not alone in implementing SDG policies, they should also not be the only voice reporting on the progress of the SDG agenda. The structure and modalities should ensure that these by extending the CSD and the Rio +20 practices so that major groups and stakeholders, and particularly rights holder groups such as women, indigenous peoples, and youth, have official opportunities to provide input at all stages that include incorporation in the outcomes. Best practices and worst practices for sustainable development and implementing the SDGs cannot be relegated to side events and segregated morning sessions. Since the beginning, together, governments and civil society groups have been developing the structure and targets of SDGs based on the principles that not sustainable development could be conceived in a framework without human rights respect and gender equality. The HLPF is part of this process, so we could not accept to have different patterns in the working groups and in the HLPF. This means major groups, civil society, and other stakeholders need to have access to all information and documents, as well as to express about all materials, including the agenda and more substantive ones. In the resolution defining the role and the scope of HLPF, the participation of major groups is not only guaranteed, but also envisioned as a transparency and accountability instrument. We consider that the future participation of major groups in consultations over agenda setting is important for compiling with the agreed functioning of the HLPF. We cannot accept the qualification of relevant stakeholders. All are the same and have the right to meaningfully and responsibly participate on equal terms. No one can have more privilege in detriment of others. These generate discriminations, and we didn't accept any form of discrimination due to sex, age, disability, ethnicity, or other factor. One idea that may be considered is to have an intergovernmental oversight of the partnership facility within the HLPF. We are committed to have a strong, ambitious, inclusive, and people-centered post-2015 development agenda firmly grounded in human rights and gender equality, and the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities, and leave no one behind. Finally, we express our commitment to discuss and consider all forms to ensure the improvement of the high-level panel forum. Thanks.